Danny von Wattenwyl has come to the Oris factory with his colleagues from Teller Basel. Oris executive chairman Ulrich Herzog gives them a behind-the-scenes tour of the factory to show how a mechanical watch is made. I've always been fascinated by watches, and when I was a child it was my dream to be a watch designer. Today I want to have a look behind the scenes to find out what a watchmaker or watch designer does. There's actually a big difference between a watchmaker and a watch designer. The watchmaker's work is very precise and detailed. Every screw has to fit perfectly, at hundredths of a millimeter count. A watch designer starts by sketching his ideas and doesn't have to be so precise. They're both fascinating jobs, but very different. I'm wearing an Oris Pro Diver at the moment, and I think it's a good example of a product that we can follow from the design to the finished product. Here we are in the design department with our head of design, Ralf Hilbig. This is where all the products begin their life. We usually take the inspiration for our watches from the world they fit into. In this case, from the world of diving. This watch uses different elements which were inspired by the clasps, pipes, and other flexible equipment used in diving. Also, the way the tanks are packed and the way the air valve is opened and closed were interesting. In this case, diving equipment was a really fantastic source of inspiration for us. Wow, so many watches. Is this the latest collection? Yes, this is one of the newest models, and as Ulrich said before, we used elements that you can see in these photos during the development process. Then we tried to bring all the elements together in one sketch. We worked on each of the different sections of the watch, such as the crowns, the pushers, and also the case, to try to create a whole. It's also important to see how the watch looks from the side, because you don't only look at it from above. In this sketch, you can see the transition from the case to the strap, which is also essential. Then we make a brass prototype so that we can also assess the volume of the watch and how it looks on the wrist. Obviously, the prototype doesn't work, but it still helps us during the development stage. When we're happy with the case, the next step is to create a colored version. How long does it take to go from the idea to this stage here? I'd say roughly a year and a half from the first idea to this. Okay, so we've seen the design stage. Now let's go and see the watchmakers. So here we are now in the technical area. This is where the watches are put together, where the hands and dials are assembled. It's a very interesting process. Here we meet René Wingling, a qualified watch technician. This arm comes forward, sucks the hands up and then goes back again. We put each piece together like this. Why is it so important for the hands to lie so flat? So that when the watch is finished, the hands don't catch on each other. For example, we need to make sure that the minute hand doesn't get caught on the second hand. And the machine positions them on its own? Exactly. Then we can look at this screen and check the alignment. This one looks great. The lines are all perfect. Then I have to look at it in more detail. Perfect. Now it's ready to be fitted to the movement. I've been wondering why there's not a machine doing all this. I can only see people working here. We actually tried it with a machine, but it just wasn't as precise as when a person does the work. It's nice to know that people are still involved in making the watches, not just machines. Now we're in the quality control department. This is where the watches are tested as they would normally be worn. So they're tested in all the different positions you can imagine. This tests the movement and how it works. We also check all the individual components here, dials, hands, cases. Then every watch undergoes a water resistance test. Once the water resistance has been established, we put the watch under that amount of pressure to make sure it withstands it and remains water resistant. Where does the name Oris come from? Good question. There's a stream in the next valley called Oris. The original founders of the company in 1904 liked the name. I think it's a great name. It's unique. It's easy to pronounce in many languages. Okay, can we go and have a look at the finished product? And here we have our finished watch, the Oris Pro Diver chronograph as it looks when you see it in the full set in a shop. Is that the box it comes in? Yes, that's right. This diver's watch is solid, a real tank of a watch, and it shows what Oris stands for, real quality for a fair price. How many watches do you own? Or do you just come to work every day and take a new one? Obviously, it's a bit easier for me to find a new watch, but I have over 100. And you wear a different one every day? Not every day. You have more than 100 watches? Yes. Amazing. Thanks for showing us around today. So, Danny, now we're back at the studio after looking behind the scenes of a place you dreamt of working when you were a child. What surprised you the most? From looking at a watch, we have no idea what's really inside, how tiny and complex the pieces are that make up the whole. It's impossible to imagine what's involved until you see it. I was really impressed that it's all done by hand. I thought you came up with a concept, put it into a big machine, and the perfect watch came out the other end. But it's not like that at all. It's also really amazing that a global business is run from Holstein, a small village near Basel in Switzerland. Oris, Swiss-made watches since 1904.